What's up, bookworms? Welcome to episode 104 of the Cantina Book Club podcast, where readers can find interviews with authors of all genres. I'm Megan, self proclaimed content queen, here to bring you insights from the authors themselves. Each week features a Cantina conversation with an author. Sometimes they're returning guests, and sometimes it's someone new. So please be sure to hit that subscribe button so that you never miss out on an episode. And feel free to browse through existing episodes so that you can catch a previous interview about a book that you finished. I try to be spoiler free about the conversations, but they'll be I try to be spoiler free during the conversations, but they will be more enjoyable if you've read the book. The interview will be ready when the interview will be here when you're ready. Just a heads up that I often use adult language to express my feelings towards these authors and their work, whether the characters just need to get their shit together or I'm encouraging the badass FMC to just say fuck it all and burn the world to the ground. Just please be mindful of listening ears. Books coming out this week, the week of September 16th, is Hey Pickpocket by Alison Cundiff and The Room of Lost Steps by Simon Tolkien. So keep an eye out for those. Pick those up if you are interested. If you need more podcast recommendations, please do check out Book Podcast Connection on Instagram. It's a group of over 100 bookish podcasts ranging from book club discussions, interviews, analyses on book to film adaptations, and everything in between. I definitely recommend you check those out if you want more out of your reading lists. And a quick reminder to please rate and review on your favorite podcast player, any podcast that you listen to. It's such a quick and easy way to help your favorite podcasts out, to help Cantina Book Club out, to reach more listeners like yourself. Today's episode features a chat with Kait Ballenger. We're talking about her book, Wicked Believer, that is the sequel to Original Sinner, adult dark romance series that she started. For those of you who don't know, I'm not really a fan of dark romance, or at least that's not something I gravitate towards, but these two books, rest assured, they are very funny, they're very good and steamy, and the characters are just amazing and hilarious, and Wicked Believer takes it up a notch. And so I loved catching up with Kait, talking about her process and how she bumped these characters and the story up to the next level. And I am so excited that I'm going to be at Smut Lovers this week, and I'm so excited to catch up with her there. But either way, without further ado, here is Kait Ballenger.
Today we've got Kait Ballenger. We're talking about Wicked Believer. That is the sequel to Original Sinner, and that comes out on September 9th. Kait, welcome back. I was so excited. We were like messaging back and forth because the book two is sexier and funnier and a little bit more suspenseful. I loved everything you did with it. I'm excited to talk more about it today.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. And I'm super excited to have this chat too. This is the first time I'm like actually talking with someone about book two. So this will be fun.
Yay. Yeah, it was hilarious. Love that I already had read the first one, so I knew what kind of to expect. And I was like excited to see where you were going to take their love story and their journey and all the drama and stuff. But, and we'll get into it. But book two, Lucifer was giving me life. He was fucking hilarious. You really stepped more into your comfort level and your element and really let yourself have fun with this one. It was so fun. I loved it. I loved you putting Lucifer through it. I love that.
Yeah, he definitely has some moments in book two, like for sure.
I loved every minute. It was fucking hilarious. So yeah, to get started, if you want to piggybacking off of that, give a little segue me, and then of course we'll try to be spoiler free of book two. Maybe we can assume that people have already read book one.
Yeah, so assuming people have already read book one, so we know that at the end of Original Sinner, Charlotte gets brought back to life, but when Lucifer gives her God's redemption, and so she's now immortal. We see them at the start of book two. It's like about a few weeks to a month later, post the events of book one, and Charlotte is really struggling with her newfound immortality. What does it mean to be an immortal versus what does it mean to be a human? And the book starts out at her dad's funeral. We know Lucifer killed dad in book one. So she's dealing with a lot right now. She's going through the weird sort of grief of grieving a parent that was also an abuser and also being immortal. So she's really trying to figure herself out a lot in this book. And Lucifer and her are really having to navigate the fact that she was a human previously. She wasn't really a part of the supernatural parts of his life. And now she's in the thick of it. And so they really have to renegotiate. What does it look like for Charlotte to be the queen of hell? What does it look like? What does it look like for her to be the bride of Lucifer? And my cat keeps hitting the screen. I'm like, really? In the middle of me talking? She's mischief. But so they're really navigating like what this new relationship looks like, especially now that Charlotte is immortal. They're on even footing. And they learn some things at the start of book 2 that I won't spoil, but that really throw them both into a state of crisis of figuring out where are we going to go from here.
Yeah, yeah. And they're definitely exploring and navigating their situation. And Lucifer, he's just not used to the feelings that he's
He
feeling.
is not.
And he doesn't like it. He doesn't.
Like I think we saw hints in like little pieces of that. I feel like in book 1 of him like not really be like struggling to handle the idea that he's in love with this weak little human. But then here we're really seeing him be like, I don't know how to do vulnerability. I don't know how to be in this relationship in a way that like is endearing, I think, because it is just so funny that the devil is just so clueless in that sense.
He's freaking out. He's freaking out. And he like, kind of like he's experiencing it, but he doesn't know what it is. He doesn't know why. He doesn't like Imani. Dude, you're in love.
Yeah.
Welcome, welcome to the human experience. Like what?
Yeah, because Lucifer has not really been in love before this in the sense of what he feels for Charlotte. And so this is the first time he's had a major vulnerability, right? Like since he's fallen from heaven, he's just been this ultimate bad boy. Like nothing can hurt him, right? And now he's got this vulnerable little former human turned immortal that is suddenly of interest to his siblings, to not just the sinful ones, but also the angelic ones. And what do I do to protect her and make sure that everything's okay? And so he put through his paces in this book.
I I love it. I love when like one of my favorite things is when uh, any character, it could be a female too, where it's just like they're badass and they're confident and they're sure of themselves and they're like ruthless, or they're like a pro and they've got their shit together. But then you put them in a completely unfamiliar situation where they're not experienced, they don't like they're not they have never encountered it before and they don't know what to do with themselves. Like they're just, it's hilarious to me. I love it when they're humbled. I love it when they're flabbergasted. That's why I think like in book 2, Lucifer, I was getting a little bit of a crush on him just because of like how we see that side of him. I don't really go, at least I don't think I do. Bad boys, they're hot, but that's not my type. I'm like book boyfriend material. My book boyfriend list is all over the place, but I've never had a character like Lucifer creep on there. But after like book 2, where we're seeing him like be humbled and he's like freaking out. He doesn't know what to do. Like one of my favorite, well, also again trying to be spoiler free, where he's like talking to the priest, and that's like hilarious. It was hilarious. Where he's like trying to get advice or trying to be like, so what do I do here? He's like, the priest is like, are you what?
Yeah. Are you okay, Lucifer? Are you sure you're all right? Yeah.
I loved it. I loved everything you did with him. I loved it.
Yeah.
So funny.
You really get a peek behind the curtain of what he's like behind closed doors. Cause I think in book 1, we're really seeing like, we get his point of view, right? But we're vast majority of the book is really through Charlotte's eyes.
Yeah.
And so even though we're getting glimpses into Lucifer's world and what's going on with his siblings and the supernatural plot, the majority of the romance is really Charlotte seeing Lucifer as this like larger than life character, right? And not only is he the devil, he's this billionaire, he's her boss, right? Like all these things. And then in book 2, when they're actually together, we're seeing Lucifer behind the scenes, right? He may be this dumb, he may be the devil, he may be a billionaire, but like he's got some squish underneath there. And he has no idea what to do when it comes to being in life.
Exactly. Exactly. He doesn't know what to do with his squish now that it's kind of being activated.
Yeah.
He's kind of like, well, he's kind of like, what the fuck? Like, I loved all because I could just because I just picture him just like pacing back and forth and what he doesn't know what to do with himself, and it's hilarious. It was just like so funny, and some of the comedy I want to that a little bit because I felt like book two it was funnier. Like there were more. It still had that like edgy, like kind of sexy and like mysterious, suspenseful, but I feel like you added more humor to it, and I want to explore that because not just with like him, but like his interactions with his siblings and then adding we'll probably hop around a little bit, but like with character growth also through Charlotte, she has some funny moments too, because like just her inner monologue is like what she because she's coming into her own. She's a little more confident, a little more snarky. Like, she doesn't let the word vomit come out, but like her inner monologue was like it was funny too. And then we get some new POV. So I don't know if you want to like still on that as well, but I found the other new characters that we're getting to know, I love their inner monologue as well. It was just so funny. So I'm gonna explore like how like your process was, if it was challenging for you, just how you branched out with those elements.
Yeah, I do think book 2 was a challenge, but in kind of a fun way because so before prior to writing Original Sinner, I've always written standalone romances. So we'll have a couple like interconnected standalones is what it's called. So like we'll have a couple in book 1 and then we switch to another couple in book 2. And that's actually what I thought was initially going to happen with this series. I wrote book 1 with the idea that we were just going to get that one book about Charlotte and Lucifer, and then we were going to move on and maybe I'd write about one of the other sinners. But then that was not what the characters were doing inside my head. That wasn't the plan. I started another book about one of the sinners, and I was just like, this, I want to do this at some point, but this really isn't where the story is because I'm getting more information from Charlotte and Lucifer on what they're still doing. So then when I emailed my editor and was like, okay, we're going to actually make this like a trilogy. Are okay with that? She was like, yep, take it where you're going to take it. And so this was really my first occasion where I've actually written a sequel with characters that I've
Okay.
written about, with characters that I've already written about previously.
Right.
Like I've written multi-book series before, but it's always been different characters for each book. So it was really fun for me to get to explore different facets of their character because they can't just stay in the same and be the same people they are in book 1. Particularly because like with the dynamic that Charlotte and Lucifer have set up, right? He has so much more power over her than she has over him. And there's a fun, dark romance element to that, of course. But when we're getting into the details of their relationship now that they're a couple, right, there has to be a way for them to figure out how to navigate that and to continue like throughout the course of their relationship. So that was some of what I was playing with. As far as the humor, I think it was just like I am very much a discovery writer, so I just let stuff come up as it comes up. So like that was all the characters. It wasn't like an intentional, oh, I want this to be funnier than book 1. I think it was just some of my like imagination and like my ADHD energy coming out in the book. And so I really was just letting it breathe in the way that it needed to. And it the characters really took over and did their thing, and then when I got to the end of writing it, I was just like, "Wow, okay, and so this is where we're going with this. Let's go." It feels like I'm just along on the journey with them. There were some elements that were definitely intentional. The addition of the third character, which we will keep, I guess, free for now, but I will say that, like, for readers who are like, "A third character? What are you talking about?" We're going in a why choose direction.
I did write that in my notes. I was like, what?
Yeah, we are going in a why choose direction, which anybody who read book 1, I think would not be super surprised since it's high heat. I think it was a shock to people that this character was not more present in book 1, but there's a reason for that. So I'm excited to see how people react to them because I really love them. And especially now, like currently, I'm working on book 3 and I'm at like the last 5% of book 3. So the series is almost complete at this point. And I hope y'all love this character because they're going to steal your heart.
It, you already stole my heart. I was just like, who would have known that's where you would have taken that character to his personality to be like, considering who he is. And I wanted to give him a big hug. I wanted to cuddle. I wanted to just be like, oh, wait a second. I think that's such a fun piece and fun personality to insert into that dynamic. I love it. I love it. It's so exciting.
Yeah, and honestly, without giving too many spoilers, the scene where Lucifer shows up to this unnamed person and is, I really need you to help me, right? Was around the time I realized that that character was going to be coming into the dynamic. And when I realized his and Lucifer's background, I was like, how did I not see this from the start? How did I not know?
It's like the Charlotte was like, wait a second.
Yes.
Try to like subtly fish for it. And it was just like, that was like one thing I loved about her because she was becoming like a little more bold and a little more brave and a little more sure of herself.
Yeah.
And just her character growth I feel like it was so authentic because of course she's still going to have self doubt. Of course, she's still going to have second thoughts or just a little at war with herself and about her choices and maybe what's expected of her versus how, if there were no if there were no expectations of her, how would she handle this? But now she's got to take those expectations into consideration. And also, it's just we see throughout book 2 how it changes. But that was like one of the dynamics, one of the situations, like that whole mystery between their past together. And I just, because she is a little insecure, but with this, she's not mad about it. I'm not feeling this. She's like what's going on there?
Instead about I thought I would be like,
Yeah, exactly. And it was really funny because like she was like, why? Even when she was first noticing this character and it was clearly she was attracted to him and she was very drawn to him and she was like, wait, what? Wait a minute. Like,
yes.
and even then it's just, that's like you cluing us in, oh, okay. And then like she finds out, oh, like,
Yeah.
wait, oh, maybe there's a way that we choose. Like, what?
Maybe I can have both of these wicked people, right?
Yeah, it was like my notes became like so unhinged, and I was like, all caps, so and so is hot, so and so is hot, this is hot.
Like a friend of mine, when I was like, I don't know, because authors complained to other authors, and I was like, I was in the middle of writing book 3, and I was like, why did I decide to do a why choose romance in the middle of a third book in a romantasy series, and I'm tying up all the plot lines? It's a lot to keep track of. And she was like, because you wanted to keep us fed, right? Like you knew that we needed to spice things up. Like I was like, yeah, true.
Yep, yep. And like you said, like that sometimes the characters, they just are doing things and that's where they take you and you're just there and it's the vessel to put their story into words. And
Yeah.
and you're not alone. I hear that really commonly from authors who they're like, you know what? This person wouldn't leave me alone, or this person was just like, this character's story was bugging me. I couldn't get it out of their head. This person turned into a dog owner. It was like,
Yeah.
I never planned it, but now they own a dog because that's just what the character wanted.
Yeah.
And I love that. That's such a fun, interesting process. But it's so common where you're just like, no, this is just how it happened. You're crushing your hand. You're like, it wasn't me. Like it was.
Yep. I'm like, if you don't like it, you gotta take it up with Charlotte and Lucifer at this point. So I'm like, this is where it went. Like, this is very much where the characters lead for sure. Because especially like Charlotte, I usually have a little bit more of a handle on what's going on with her. But Lucifer, even in book 1, I was like 3/4 of the way through the book before I figured out what he was doing. I was like, "Oh, you devious asshole!" He pulls one over on me in that way as a character. Like I have gasp moments where I'm like, "That's what you've been doing," and so it's very much a product.
Like true to form, and you wouldn't care either if you or anybody who would be like, "Excuse me, what's up with this?" And you'd be like, what?"
Exactly, like I am just my own person. He is definitely his own entity.
I think I can't remember if I've ever like I probably have read books before where the devil was a character, but I feel like you're in from what I can remember, I would not have expected this, but I love it. I love everything you did with him and who or what he did with himself, how he emerged in your brain, how he decided the story was gonna go. I love it. I was like, it's like even like little small moments where it's like I can see almost see it like a movie or TV show unloading where he's like down meeting someone in the subway and he like notices a rat who like hisses at him or like whatever.
Yes.
And he's just,
Roars back at
yeah,
it.
yeah. He just rolls his eyes and he's like, what little thing? And then he goes and it was like, I love that. Cause I could totally see it. Like, yeah, he's rolling his eyes like, okay, little one,
Yeah,
like
he's
whatever,
like so
you know?
petty. So petty. Like,
It's hilarious. Like with, I know I tagged you in some of these because I was just like, when I take screenshots or I'll bookmark to take screenshots to share because I don't know, sometimes it takes a bit to make me like audibly laugh. Like I might smile or might like do a little, but I was cackling at some of these moments where it's like he's playing Toto Africo on repeat
yeah.
to like torture. And then he was like, I was just like, oh my God, because I just think that's hilarious. Cause I was like, first of all, I was like, what does Tate have against that song? And that's like,
I actually don't dislike that song. I think it's a fine song. It was just like and so what I was playing with there is I feel like there's so many stereotypical sort of depictions of what hell looks like, right? It's just fire,
yeah,
brimstone. And I did want to have a little bit of that in the series, right? Because it's part of the canon of writing Lucifer as a character. But I was like, if like this Lucifer would not have just like the most expected thing, right, as what he's built hell to be. So I had to really dig to think about what I wanted hell to be like. And I was like, okay, what is the worst things that this Lucifer can imagine? And this Lucifer has a complete and total disregard for humanity, right? Because as the devil, he would, right? He's humans. I'm like, the worst thing he could think of would be like these nasty human places that have just been abandoned or left behind, right? So when I had that scene in my head of hell, and I'm like, okay, hell is this like old abandoned like mall, right? I'm like, what would be playing or what music? And I was like, it'd be something dated because it would be like to give almost I don't want to say horror vibe, but like adjacent to if anybody is familiar with the term liminal spaces, like that was what I was going for there. And I was like, yeah, these old like abandoned yucky places that like you just don't want to be anymore, right? And they're dated. I was like, that's what hell would be like.
it's so funny. It was so funny because he just sees it as it's just something to be said about the abandoned like hub for consumerism, right? And it's just and he thinks no, this is one of the worst places that on earth, and it's just also reminds me of another thing because he's like he's got a certain standard for himself, and it was one of the funniest things when Charlotte was like, "Are you wearing sweatpants?"
Yeah, exactly. You're right. Like he wants the cream of the crop for everything, right? He's very much like embodies that I am Lucifer, so therefore I'm pride. Like I'm gonna have the best of everything. So anything beneath that, he's no.
I love because but even though he's like icky about humans, he still exhibits human traits, and I
Yes.
think I love it. It's hilarious. It's hilarious to me because it's like you could almost do anything you want with Lucifer as a character and like play around and stay faithful to the preconceived notions or maybe the lore or the history that humanity agrees on. But that's what I love about your book. It's like dark comedy almost, where you could play around with listing the layers, or if he's an onion, he's got the layers, or lifting the veil, or let's make him fall in love with a human, and for reasons A, B, and C, they're just he can't he can't fathom doing anything to keep her safe, like at a detriment to himself, at risk to himself, and his own like who he is, pride as a person. And he's at no task or risk is too much for as long as Charlotte's safe. And And I love that he's just, what the fuck is she doing to me? Who am I?
Yeah.
What is, like,
Like we love a good like bad boy, like badass hero, but like underneath, I want to see them be like, I'm pining over someone and I fucking hate this.
I know, and I want to play around with that because I guess so. I think we talked about this last time with the research for like the dom sub dynamic, some of those kinks or like taboo, whatever
Yeah.
kind of things that people are into, lifestyles. And I remember like some of one of my notes, I was like, a Tiffany Tyler, Tiffany's like,
It exists. It does exist, I promise.
I love that. I was like, how perfect, how fucking perfect is that? But so I kind of want to, I think we talked about maybe your research into it or how familiar you were with it, but like that whole lifestyle, because it does, I kind of want to explore because he brings like real relationships and people who do feel strongly with one another for one another and who are deeply in love. Yes, they can absolutely have that kind of 24/7 dynamic.
Yeah.
But I kind of want to explore like your process and how you were navigating someone that dom sub dynamic mixed with that growing relationship and those growing feelings and that unfamiliar territory and how they're navigating because Charlotte's becoming her own person and she's in love. Lucifer has already been his own person, but he's becoming like there's a new part of himself because he's in love. And then that's like them separately and then them together. And how that I just guess I want to explore like how that whole kink side and that dynamic, that relationship, that agreed upon dynamic, then how those feelings and how they're the growing seriousness of their relationship played into that and how you navigated and figured all that out.
Yeah, they honestly, I feel like they play really well with one another in the sense that like anyone who is either like in the BDSM community or adjacent to the BDSM community knows that if you're a part of this community and you're like a kinkster, right? And you're like engaging in these really sometimes not always the most physically safe kinds of play in the bedroom, right? You have to have really clear and established communication practices for it, right? And I think that I actually heard a content creator say this the other day. This was a BDSM content creator because I follow a lot of creators in this space. I have a lot of friends who are in that community. So, like, I've been doing a lot of the research that I need to make sure that I'm giving as much of an accurate representation as I can, with the added caveat that this is romance and it is dark romance at that. And like, it's fantasy, right? So, there is a disclaimer in the book that this is not an accurate representation of the BDSM community. But the BDSM is like the emotional Olympics. You have to really have a handle on the emotional dynamics of your relationship for you to not be hurting yourself if you are playing and engaging in these really intense dynamics. And with Charlotte and Lucifer, I think that the BDSM element of their relationship almost puts like a buffer on the dark romance elements of their relationship, right? Because they're having to navigate these elements of what are we consenting to? What are we not consenting to? What does it mean to wear the collar full time? So, just to get a little bit more into that element of the book, we talked about how Charlotte is immortal at the start of book 2, and she's really navigating what it means to be immortal. But when she also puts Lucifer's collar on and she is now his full time sub, she's navigating what does it mean to be his sub full time? Is this something that I want? Is it something that I don't want? And it really played well with kind of her healing journey because like you were saying, she had a lot of trauma in book 1 and she was overcoming this. And I didn't want her character to just be magically healed at the start of book 2. I don't think that's realistic. It's not realistic to my own experience of healing from trauma. So I wasn't going to write it into the book, right? Like, I didn't want it to be like, I magically find this amazing man and my trauma disappears. That's not a story that you're ever going to read from me. So, because it's just not realistic. And so I really wanted her to be grappling with some of that trauma. And so having the trauma be worked out via the BDSM elements of their relationship is a really key part of this series because that's what a lot of people use BDSM for, right? For working out parts of their background, their relationship in ways that are established and safe. And like you can do that in a way that is now in a safe space where it might not have been previously. And so that's very much what I'm playing with Charlotte and Lucifer is that they're both using this to work out some of their past issues. And I think we see that continuing into book 2, and it definitely comes into play with Charlotte wearing the collar and trying to figure out who she is because does she want to be Lucifer's sub full time or does she only want to be his sub when they're in the playroom together? What does that mean about who she is and her past trauma? And so it's a lot to juggle, but it ends up marrying well together. And I hope, like, I got a lot of emails after book 1. It came out from various, like, BDSM, like, kinksters saying that they loved the rep in the book. So I'm hoping to get more of those because that really made me feel validated that I'm using, like, this as a tool in the correct way to tell the story in a way that feels authentic to that community. And so I'm hoping I get more messages like that.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's definitely that's what a like a little bit of a fun validation for you that
Yes.
people are saying no thanks because I otherwise they'd be saying, "Excuse me, you got this all wrong.
Yes.
This clearly you don't know what you're doing." Like,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
they it could be like, or it could be like this might be a little bit dangerous, but like, and absolutely, like you gave that kind of trigger warning, content warning, where it's this is one like kind of an example of this type of relationship lifestyle because that's what I imagined it as. Like I've never dabbled in that. Full disclosure, I've never dabbled in that. I did. I don't know if you and you're in Florida. Have you heard of smut lovers? I don't know if
Yeah,
you've ever
I'm
gone
actually
into well.
I am doing Smut Lovers for the first time for this coming September, October period. So I'm very excited
Well,
to be at
I'm gonna see you. I'm gonna find you because I'm going there. My friend's gonna be a signing author. It's her second year. I went with her last year, and she was like, because she knows like dark romance. It's not. I'm not drawn to it, but she does dark romance. She writes. She self published. She writes it. So she asked me to beta read for her, proofread and stuff like that. So I'm like, I'm that's pretty much other than stuff like yours, if I'm kind of like tiptoeing into it, or I'm like, I like with you, I was pleasantly surprised with Original Sinner because I can handle it. It wasn't like totally out there. And I think we talked about it last time where it was like, it's yeah, like dark and it's like triggering, but it wasn't that bad. It was like, it wasn't like, I guess I
Yeah.
wasn't like preparing myself for something up here when you're a little bit, you're like a little down here, you trickle it in.
Yeah.
And then this one, because I already knew what to expect, I was prepared for it. And so with her, she was like my little introduction to dark romance. And so now, but once I understood where she was like going with it, then I was like, okay, now I know what to expect kind of thing. So now I'm like, I feel like I've got a good handle on what to expect in general of that subgenre. But no, going to Smut Lovers last year, she was like, because that was her first signing. And she was like, and I saw it. I was like, yeah, I can go mingle and network and whatever. And she was like, I know this isn't really your thing, but I'm so glad that you're here with me. And I'm like,
Oh,
okay, like that makes it all worth it. Cause if I was here by myself, I would be freaking out. I'm like, it's all good. I
the
got you.
emotional support person. Yeah.
Yes. Yep. That is the ticket. That's the ticket title, ticket tier. But yeah, no, I'll find you. But yeah, one thing I learned about that is I was surprised. I learned a lot. I learned a lot about that subgenre, about that community, but every panel and everything that how it was presented in general, it was just like really educational and professional. It wasn't like people weren't like, oh, giggling. People weren't like, ew, like what? People were just like, no, this is treating it like any other workshop or treating
Yes.
it like any other thing where it's just like, you're listening to something. And then there was like, yeah, Moxie Rose, I think I don't, you probably follow her creator where she does some of that stuff. And it was like, it was fun to see some of these people who are like, they do it not just they don't present the education for the work, for the kink part, but they do it like literally to educate, to make you informed, to clarify any
Mhm.
preconceived assumptions or things that you're not sure about. Cause I was like, I think I kept a list. I was like, I learned so much. And just the way that it was presented, it was so professional and so educational. And it was like, it was so worth it where I was like, yeah, I'll go again. I was like, yeah, I'll go again.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
even though that none of this was relevant to me at all, and there's still some like some parts or some activities that I'm like, I just don't get it. I'm like, why? I don't know, knife play. I just don't think I'm ever gonna like. Maybe I could see the appeal to it, but I'm also like, that I just see that's not safe.
I'll give you warnings for book 3. I promise nobody gets
There we
to go.
go.
It's just a hilt. It's
I
just a
know.
hilt.
It's funny because I'm like, I'm not gonna kink shame, but I'm also like, I just my mind doesn't it just doesn't go there. And so yeah, I was just like, if that's you do you. That's a thanks for the warning. Yes, thanks for the heads up. And I'm just like, but no, it's like things like smut lovers and just tiptoeing into the community. And also, you know your readers, you know your audience, and the readers hopefully know themselves and what they're ready for too. But if I because I went in really open minded to it. I'm like so open minded. And plus my writer friend who I tagged along with, I've known her since high school. I've known her for 20 years.
Yeah.
And so I feel super, super comfortable with her. And she knows me to the point she's like, I know this isn't your thing, but thank you so much.
Oh.
And just like she wrote, but it's really funny because we would talk about, reflect on some workshops. And I think she would laugh about some things, like maybe laugh at if she thought I was uncomfortable. But I was like, why do you why do you think I'm shying away from this? I'm not. Come on, you know me. It's just not my thing, but I'm not gonna be loud. I'll
Yeah,
say the word.
fine. Like
I'll
something can be not your thing, and you can still be respect it and understand it, right? Like,
yeah, yeah. It was no, I'm excited that you're gonna be there this year.
yeah, I'm
Because then
very
it
much
yeah,
looking
and
forward to it.
I like it was I had a lot of fun, even if I was like, what? And it was funny because I won like a silent auction. Or no, it was a raffle. I didn't bet any money, but I just paid for raffle tickets. But I won a raffle for a little bedroom kit. It had a blindfold, a whip, it had like,
Nice.
wine and chocolate
Cute.
and all that. It had a little card game. And it was really funny because I was like, I would go to my husband and I was like asking him because I love him so much, but he's vanilla. And I'm like, "Well, I'm not gonna get use out of half of this stuff. Here, do you want this? Do you want that?" And so I was like giving it to my friend and she's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, sweet. Yeah. Are you sure?" I was like, "Yeah, let's eat the chocolate. Let's share the wine right now, but you can take this in your bag. You can take this home with you.
Yeah,
Maybe I'll
that's
keep
one
this."
that
I was like, "I want the charcuterie board. I'm taking that with me."
yeah, to
Oh my God.
your own, right? Yeah.
Exactly. And it was funny because I'm like telling her husband, I was like, I learned a lot about you that weekend. He's just, yeah, I figured. He's like, I figured you would. You're just crossing that line. But I'm so glad that I just like reading your books and reading her books and just learning more about the community and like where that genre goes. It's now, I feel like I'm just like so much more knowledgeable and so much more aware of just like these lifestyles and stuff. And of course, like Charlotte's kind of, no, I like this. I want that. And Lucifer, that's just who he is. And then with the again, all over the place, some other characters that will be spoiler free. But one of the other moments that Charlotte made me laugh was she was like, "Ugh, I could no wonder he's always expecting to get what he wants
Yeah.
because he's what firstborn and he's the golden child.
Yeah.
Ironically, he is the one and he's all eyes are on him now. And especially now because there's going to be a budding family upcoming and all that stuff. So it's just so funny to me where she was just like, oh, of course.
Yes, yes. Oh my gosh, yeah. I think people often forget that part of Lucifer as a character because I mean, to be really clear, like about the research aspects of it, like a lot of the mythology surrounding Lucifer as like an archetypal character actually doesn't come from the Bible. It comes from Paradise Lost by Milton. But the Paradise Lost canon has become a part of this like archetypal figure of Lucifer. And in that canon, right, Lucifer is the leader of God's armies, right? Like he is like the most cherished son, right? Like he's Jesus before Jesus was a thing, right? And so like he is God's baby, right? And but then when he falls hard, right? And so I think sometimes like we often get as a character, he's one or the other. He's either he was the golden child or he's the bad boy. And I'm like, but he's both actually. He was the golden child who became the bad boy, right? So I had a lot of fun playing with that aspect of his character and going into more of the the celestial dynamics of what's going on with the angels versus what's going on with the sinners and the demons and the conflicts between heaven and hell and God and all these other characters. And I think that really opened up the world building of the series in a fun way. So I'm hoping readers enjoy that aspect because I feel like in book one, it feels very contemporary, despite that the character is Lucifer, until the second half of the book when things really open. But the world is the world of Charlotte and Lucifer and the supernatural elements of this world are just blown wide open and we could believe her.
I know. I'm gonna just repeat myself. I loved it. I love everything you did with it because it's like it's not only that, but yeah, when you're writing a sequel with the same couple,
Yeah.
you have to up the ante. You have to raise the stakes, and you have to throw more shit at them
Yeah.
to keep it engaging and to not only challenge them, but so you're giving the reader something new. Like, why am I continuing? Why am I? Why do I want to stay interested in them and their journey? It's, oh, because guess what? She's gonna get a little closer to her in-laws. And guess what? She's gonna deal with her celebrity
Yeah.
status. And because yeah, that's like another aspect of it. I love you continued with the PR aspect and the New York elite social scene aspect of it, billionaire aspect of it. Where it's funny because like when I go back and go over some clips to like post on social media, like a lot of it was fun. And like I remembered some clips where it's just she was having fun taking advantage of him. And then now it's like in his bank account, but now she's just kind of like, well, yeah, like it's
Yeah.
that's
Just
like now
like
she's yeah.
yeah. She definitely in book one, Charlotte was very much amused with Lucifer's being a billionaire, the amount of money he had. She was very enamored with all the wealth, but now she's becoming a little bit more accustomed to it. This is just a part of the world that she now finds herself in. Lucifer's bank account is now her bank account, basically. And so she's navigating that and figuring that out. And I really there's meant to be a parallel there, right? Between their immortality and being these big celestial power players and money as a means of power and what that all means. And so I hope readers like where I took that.
It was a fun way. Yeah. I was there was just a point where I was like, where's she gonna go with this? But that's the fun of it. That's like by design. When if Lucifer is just true to form and Charlotte's he's true to form, but like navigating the situation. And she's going through some growth but it's also fun to see. Cause it's just I joke about this with other authors where I'm like, I feel like I would be such a boring character because I wouldn't be like, yeah, okay. Or just going with it. I wouldn't like insist on marching up to anything or like proving. I think it would just take longer for me to have that desire to put my big girl panties on and prove people wrong. It would
Yeah.
just take me a little bit longer. But that's part of authors' agency where you can have fun with it and you can live a little vicariously.
Yes.
Just be like, what would this person who grew up this way? And there's moments that you can relate to as well
Yeah.
because it comes from somewhere. But yeah, where you could be like, okay, how would this go? And then how would they respond to this? And then how would they respond to this? And then where would that lead to? So I could tell you had like more fun and really, I think a lot of it made sense where you took it and what you put them through and where you took it. And it was just like, like continuing the glitz and the glamour, but also just but like you're introducing also the readers to different locations too. Like we're seeing a little bit more into, because yeah, like you said, we're getting more of Lucifer's POV, which I loved. And then so we get to see more like behind the scenes and where he's going and what he's doing. Like we hate Canada.
Yeah, I love it. He does some of the stuff he comes up with as a character, which I just want to say, I don't hate Canada. I grew up literally, I grew up 15 minutes from the Canadian border, so I don't hate Canada. I don't know, when he came up,
You felt maybe that's why you felt a little safe. Bring it up. Yeah.
I was like, really? I was like, of course you'd say that. Like,
I love it. I love it because it's just even he's a character, but I'm like, does he know how hilarious he is? I feel like if I was just a fly on the wall or like his assistant, I don't know at what point. Maybe I'd be like Amani, where I'd be like over it. I'd be like, dude, get a grip. get a grip. Hey, open your eyes. You're in love, fool. It's like, we're just, I wouldn't be phased and I would just be like laughing my ass off, maybe like because I'm like, no, I'm not going to laugh in his presence at his frustration because he's not, that's not going to be fun for anybody.
Yeah.
But yeah, I fucking laughed about it on the car ride home. Like, that was if I was his PR head. So it was just like, I love Lucifer in this book and he was so funny. And just, yeah, like it was really cool to see more of his POV and more of his side of it and more. I don't know if that fell into you listening to him and where he was taking you, or if that was maybe intentional where you knew, oh, I think I'm gonna throw more of him in here.
It was it was somewhat intentional because there was he's present on the page in book one, right? Like we get his point of view, but his point of view in book one, I think, really serves to drive just the supernatural like plot elements forward. And we're getting just enough of him that we get a vague idea of what's going on in his world, but not enough that we're really seeing behind the scenes. And I knew going into this book that we really needed to see behind the scenes in this one. So we were going to be getting a lot more of his POV, but also I think it's added to by the fact that Charlotte is seeing behind the curtain as well, right? When I was like this is just a nerdy author thing to say, but when I was looking at like breakdowns of their POVs versus like book 1 and book 2, I don't know that word count wise that Lucifer's on the page anymore POV wise in book 2 than he is in book 1. But because we get Charlotte also seeing behind the curtain, it opens up that world so much more. And then when we get the point of view of yet another person, when we get they who will not be named, I like then we're seeing even more of that. And that comes at the tail end of book 2. But then when we move into book 3, and I can say this because I'm finishing up book 3 right now, I'm like, this world has just like completely expanded and exploded, like way bigger and way more involved than I ever would have expected it to be based on what I was writing in book 1, just because Lucifer wasn't giving us those glimpses behind the curtain. Like we were allowed a peek here and there, but now we're really seeing backstage, right? What's actually happening.
Yeah, and poor Charlotte, because she's like really she's not like demanding it, but she's open to it. She's tiptoeing into it. She's like, when do because she like wants to respect him, but she's also I'm in it. Like
Yeah.
I'm your partner. I'm your partner now.
Yeah.
Dude, you gotta let me in. You
There's a
know?
lot of discussions for them in this book about like transparency and like what that means and what her role is now that she is an immortal. Cause I think at the opening of the book, Lucifer is kind of trying to nudge her into immortality, but in a lot of ways, he's still treating her like she's a human. And Charlotte, I think at first is willing to accept that, but then she reaches a crisis point in book 2 where she's, no, you've got to treat me like an immortal. I've got to be able to make my own power plays and do my own thing. And
Yeah.
she's really coming into her own. And it was interesting because going into the edits for book 2, I think like I have 2 editors, and one of them was like, I really wanted her to be like running into battle and like fighting the bad guys at the start of book 2. And I said, that wouldn't have made any sense for her character, like where she was at the end of book 1. Book 2 is really like her growth period, right? Like she's figuring out how to be an immortal. She's figuring out how to be a celebrity, right? Like she's figuring out so many things about herself. And this is also the first time that she's really living free of her abuse and abuser. Like, so she's got so much background going on that is just, she's really trying to figure herself out in a major way in this book. And that's a big part of her journey. While meanwhile, Lucifer is trying to figure out what does it mean to be in love? Like, how do I protect this person I'm in love with? And also respect her autonomy and not completely steamroll her choices and decisions. So anybody who's been married for any length of time will know you have like that honeymoon period at the beginning, and then you have a period of struggle where you've got to figure out like your past hurts and how you move forward together as a couple. And I feel like that's where Lucifer and Charlotte are at in book 2, is they're really figuring out how are we going to thrive together rather than as separate individuals.
domestic life. We're like, what?
The devil's domestic life. That's the best way to describe him.
God, I love it. Oh my God. I could just imagine like 10 years from now or 100 years from now, that we'll see him pulling a baking sheet of cookies out of the oven because Charlotte asked him to. Because Charlotte's like, hey, honey, can you check the timing on this casserole? And
Yes.
he'd be like, I could totally see it. Wow, I love it. I love it. I love domesticated, confused, and in love Lucifer. He's amazing. This is a question I asked in the first book too. For the second book, what were the most challenging versus enjoyable parts to write?
Oh, most challenging versus most enjoyable. Okay. I feel okay. One of the most enjoyable to write scenes is actually very early. There's two. Because I will say this whole series is just an exercise in me having fun as an author. It's very hard to pinpoint like the hard parts. I'm not going to say writing any book is easy, right? That's not the case. There's definitely been moments where it's harder than not. But but this series in general is just like me letting my like joy out, and this is just everything I want it to be in a book. And so it's definitely like a passion project for me in that way. So I have a lot of like fun moments. One moment, there's two that I really loved writing. One was very early in the book when he's chasing her through the woods near her old family home. It's just sexy, like it gets hot, but it's also like a little bit of that dark romance element of Lucifer being a baddie. And that one I just loved. I like when he gets dark and unhinged, and so I just had a lot of fun writing that scene, and it was also fun to get like my readers and beta readers reaction because they were like, "Oh yeah, that scene was where it was at." I was like, "Okay, good." And then the other one is more goofy fun. I really loved writing the scene where he and Greed play Monopoly because Greed is just such a delightful character, right? She is the only female among the original sinners. So she's among all these idiot brothers, as she would call them. And so she needed to have a fun moment on the page. And I just loved her reactions in that scene and how Lucifer knew exactly what his sister would want in this scenario. And it was just, like you said, that kind of domesticated element because they're not talking about normal people things as they're playing Monopoly.
Yeah.
They're making big celestial deals over this Monopoly game, but Greed is gonna get like free parking. Like
It was so cute. He's okay with my little sister. We'll let her. I am gonna look the other way while she
yes.
does what she does. It's so fucking adorable and hilarious and funny. Like it offers that sibling side to Lucifer with his only sister.
Yeah.
And then also, yes, another extension of the domesticated lifestyle part of their life, but also, yes, like you said, like Greed, she gets a little more like that cute, fun part of herself. Like it showed. I like that was one of my favorite scenes too. It was so cute, funny, and where he had an ulterior motive, but he like it's like because you presented it, and he's like, oh, the golden like Scotty, the Scottish Terrier, and she was like,
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And like I will say some of the like as far as the scenes that were the hardest to write, I will say that the midpoint was like the center of the book where we go from Charlotte and Lucifer have just been in the playroom having some fun. They're in bed post aftercare, and all of a sudden, like spoiler alert, the archangel Michael shows up in their bedroom. And that scene in particular, I feel like I reworked it a lot of times until I was happy with it. And it wasn't that it wasn't fun to write, it was just a really pivotal moment for both him and Charlotte. And I really wanted to make sure that I nailed it. And it was really hard after that point to have Charlotte want to be with Lucifer, want to be in this dynamic with him, but also be really angry with him for what's going on and the celestial elements of their relationship. So that was the big challenge of walking that line between her still being in love with him and still wanting to be with him, but also saying, you can't keep me out of this celestial world, mister. Like, so that was a hard line to
Yeah,
walk,
yeah,
but I'm happy with how it turned out at the end.
yeah. No, yeah, and that's why I was asking like challenging versus enjoyable because it's nope. I would imagine even if a part is easy to, it's because you had maybe fun doing it. But even then, if something's hard to write, you could still have fun. No, it's
Yeah.
so that's why I like most enjoyable or which part were you dreading to write, which also exists for some authors. But it's okay. This is important to the story. I'm just not looking forward to having to go through this right now. But I love, yeah, I love because I during that scene, like Charlotte's a better woman than I because she showed that was like a good moment to show her learning and choosing her battles.
Mhm.
Like I give her slash you all like the kudos, all the credit because she was pissed and she was about to like she was like, oh hell no. And like I'm like, I was like, yes, leave. Just go and teach them this is not acceptable.
Yeah.
But then she's, oh, like, she's like present company. And she was like, this is like, we can deal with this. We can have this discussion later.
Yeah.
And she knew because she also has to contend with the fact she's newly immortal, right? Like she's newly immortal. She hasn't been immortal for a month at this point, right? So like
Yeah.
she versus everybody else in this world that she's now part of, everybody else has been around the block more than once. They've not their first rodeo by far. And so it's her kind of learning that and also maybe trying to play by their rules and trying to read the room.
Yeah.
And even though she's like understandably and rightfully confused and pissed and what she's like, what I don't even know where to go from here. She's
Yes. Yeah.
and exactly.
And I think she very much has the tendency to want to run in guns blazing and be like, I know how to fix this. But yeah, she does have to check herself and be like, I am very new to this. I don't know all the dynamics of being an immortal. That's part of what she's figuring out, like, as she comes into her own a little bit more in book 3. But even then, like, I'll say, having been working on that one, she's more even footing, right? She knows how to be an immortal now, but at the same time, she doesn't have all the experience that Lucifer and his siblings have, right? They've been in immortals for all this eternity. So she's really the underdog here, no matter how you look at it. But she's going to find a way to stand on her own 2 feet and be her own person in the midst of being the underdog.
Yeah, because even if then it's like she could get pissed off of one interaction, but they just treat it as business as usual because it was probably like, I don't know, 800 years ago that they got pissed about each other in the same situation.
Yeah.
They're already past it. They already reached past that point of where that situation will go. So now it's like they're reacting based on their just like centuries and immortal life relationships and dynamics,
Yeah.
which is also funny. It brings me about like funny to our new POVs where he's when you're immortal, you fooled around with everyone,
Yes.
and you're not heterosexual, like
That was like that was very intentional, right? Because that's my take on immortality. I'm like, if you existed for thousands of years, you're not gonna only sleep with one gender. That's just but
I don't see how. I don't see how. I don't even seriously. It's like I'm looking at myself. I'm like, yeah, well, I find women attractive, but I don't have that same reaction that I do with men. But I'm like, yeah, if I was immortal, I'd be like, fuck it. Like,
yeah. Like you've got 1,000,000,000 lifetimes, right? Yeah, and I think
if everyone had the same like attitude towards it as you do, it's just like, oh, it's only a recipe for all that exploring. Yeah.
yes, exactly. And I think about we see that a lot in like other pantheons of gods series, like where oh Zeus or Hades, or because there's a lot of Greek like myth retellings going around in Rome to
Right.
see and things like that right now. And not there where it's like everybody's having sex with everybody, right? And but we don't think about applying that to like Christian immortal characters and like Lucifer, Michael, like all these archangels. And I'm like, they would be doing the same thing too. So that was like my little, like a definite choice. But yes, I love that the unnamed character's POV gives us a lot of perspective into the world building and the dynamics in a way that not even Lucifer's POV does, because he almost acts more as like an objective, like explainer of what's going on in this world. And he's, oh yeah, nobody's straight, everybody's fucking everybody. That's the way it works.
I mean, yeah, it really was. I loved his commentary. I loved his inner monologue. And he was just so funny because he's so mysterious, but then he's a little like he's sweet and considerate. But then it's also, you get his inner monologue and you're like, oh, like there's so much under the surface. He's like ugly duckling, or not ugly duckling, but like a duck underwater, where he's just like, there's so much going on in his brain. I think like he's where he was, one of my favorite moments was, I don't know who came up with the term bull in a China shop, who fucked around and found out to come up with that. But he's like, yeah, I would say Charlotte right now is an accurate description.
Yeah, he has this. Oh, I don't want to say the term alien because he's not an alien in that sense, but he has an almost alien quality to like his POV where like Lucifer is very just like turning up his nose at humanity, whereas this other not named character is more like making commentary in the way you would think an immortal or a celestial who's more neutral about humanity would. And yeah, he's definitely a character where it's, what's the saying, still waters run deep, right? Where he tends to be a little bit more quiet and growly. He's not as showy and dramatic as Lucifer.
It is just matter of fact. Yeah. Like,
Yeah, and because I needed them to be very different and be able to complement one another, and he definitely has a much more readily available soft side than Lucifer does. Like Lucifer, you have to work to get to the squish, but this other character, he's a softie, but is he? We see some badass moments of him in book 3 that you're like, oh, okay, maybe I see where you had
oh, yay.
past history.
Oh, I can't wait. But yes, piggybacking off of that, one of my last questions was, with what's safe to share, what can readers expect in book 3?
Yeah, so this is for readers who have read book 2, but what's safe to expect in book 3 is more fighting of the apocalypse. Why choose elements? Don't worry, there is a sword crossing guarantee. That is happening. And yeah, more sexy BDSM elements, more celestial drama. Everything's going to be upped in the same way it was in book 2, just like even higher stakes in book 3.
Yes, I love it. And so, since you decided to switch to following one couple through 3 books, are you still maybe thinking about exploring the other original Sims and their stories and what that would look like?
Yeah, that's definitely the tentative plan. I imagine the other Sinners stories, at least as of current, I imagine them being more like interconnected standalones. So like one about each sinner. Lucifer and Charlotte definitely needed that 3-book arc because they were talking to me in that way. But I don't think the other characters have quite the background that needed to be unpacked in the way that Lucifer and Charlotte did. Because Lucifer's the devil. He's not gonna get over his daddy issues in one book.
Okay, Kait Ballenger, where can we find you online and on social media?
So you can find me at www.kateballenger.com. I'm also on most social media, most frequently Instagram and TikTok. And if you go to my website, you can sign up for my newsletter, and there's plenty of original Sinner and Wicked Believer bonus content.
Perfect. Yes, I am also subscribed, and I always like a little hype when I get you in my inbox.
Oh,
It's all good. I love it. Yeah, I was like, what she got? What she said? Okay, so Kait Ballenger, Wicked Believer, it is out on September 9th.
Yes.
Thank you so much for your time and for all these answers that you're like, I'm so excited for book 3. I was already like, when did I finish book 2? And I was like, oh, I gotta wait for book 3, but that's the nature of writing, reading, arc reading, right? I love this book. I love your series. I love what you're doing with it. And yeah, when if you're ready, feel free to reach out. I'd love to chat again.
Yeah, I would love to. That'd be great.
And there you go. That was Kait Ballenger talking about her book, Wicked Believer. That book is available now. Check out the show notes where you can find links to purchase the book and where to find Kait online and on social media. Please find Cantina Book Club online and on social media if you need book recommendations. I'm always posting reviews on cantinabookclub.com. And also, if you're following me on social media, you can see the updates as well. And on your favorite podcast player, I'd love if you take a minute to rate and review Cantina Book Club. It just really does help me out so much in reaching more listeners like yourself. And if you do want to help the authors out, one of the easiest ways to do that is to leave them a rating and review on Goodreads or Amazon or wherever you think people are looking for book recommendations and all that good stuff. And as always, thank you so much for listening.